If you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
Well, it depends if the Lord Almighty comes out and tells me that, I might do that.
And then the skies parted over Rehoboth, Delaware, and the Lord spake. Is that what he did? Did he spake? And he told Joe Biden, you're not in it to win it. You can't. You got to turn it over to the lady with the tiny little chestnut brain. Come on. And did you see the statement put out by Barack Obama? Was also signed by Big Mike. Michelle Obama's name is on it, too. Obama calls for open nomination process. He wants an open process. He wants anarchy. He wants chaos. He wants Chicago, the Democratic Convention, to make 1968 look like a kid's cake and Kool-Aid birthday party. He's calling for madness, for anarchy. But I did enjoy the fact that it was signed by Big Mike as well. Furthermore, he says, Barack Obama, in his statement, we will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead. Then he says, but I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party, singular, plural, then plural, singular, will be able to create a process. They're going to have to create a process. They don't have a process. They're going to have to create one from which an outstanding nominee emerges. They're talking to Kim Jong-un, as I understand it, and see if Kim is... And then it's signed former President Barack Obama and Michelle Big Mike Obama. It's signed right there. It says, so why is Michelle Obama's name on the statement by Barack Obama about politics? What's up with that? She suiting up. She putting on her big boots and getting kind of crazy out there. Well, happy Monday to you. It's been a wackadoodle week, and yesterday alone, holy cannoli. Joe Biden, he stepped aside. He's passing the torch, and there were gangs of left-wing lunatics in front of the White House yesterday with chants. You know how they love to chant, and they love things that rhyme, especially nursery rhymes, because they have the brains of children, small children, not very bright children. But the Democrats, the mobs in front of the White House, chanting, pass the torch, pass the torch. And then they burned down the Church of the Presidents again, which they like doing. They didn't really burn down the church yesterday. That was a couple of years ago. That was when President Trump was in the White House that they set fire to the Church of the Presidents. But they like doing that sort of stuff. Well, again, happy Monday to you, and a great many interesting things have occurred since last we convened on Friday. Extraordinary things, and Joe Biden, here's the thing, Joe Biden, he stepped aside yesterday. That's the party-issued language. Stepped aside, pass the torch, etc. And it's interesting that the party that gave us the White Knights of the KKK is always talking about passing the torch, you know? They're not lighting a cigarette. You know, they're lighting your house on fire. It's the Democrat Party. They're going to set the fields on fire because that's who they are. They're like burning churches and things like that. They do a lot of that. But pass the torch is one of their big things. So yesterday, Joe Biden stepped aside, as some of us predicted long ago. I don't want to, throng my own rind over here, break my arm, pat myself on the back, but come on. And even last week, I was being bombarded on the Twitter and elsewhere saying, aha, you big dimwit, you said Joe Biden would step aside, and he's not stepping aside. But it turns out I was right, even when others thought I was wrong. That's okay. That's just fine. That's the way it is. But today, you know what happens today, don't you? Today, they pull Joe Biden aside and they tell him what happened yesterday. Now they got to tell him what happened because he doesn't know. He doesn't know that he stepped aside. Somebody's going to have to tell him. And even if he knew yesterday, probably have to tell him again today. He brought in two of his closest pals, Mike Donnellan and Steve Ricchetti, and brought him to Delaware on Saturday. And the story that they've typed up and handed to the press for the first corrupt version of history is that Joe Biden brought them in. He had been convinced that he couldn't win, that look at all the polls. And Democrats went to him in Delaware and said, hey, you got the Wuhan. I see you got the Wu. And he said, oh, yeah, I got, and his voice is not strong enough to address the nation. He still hasn't said anything. He's stepping down. It's a historic event, but he's not up to the task of addressing the nation. They could do a YouTube video that's 10 seconds long, but they haven't done that. Maybe 3 minutes long. They haven't done that. And we haven't heard from Kamala, and apparently she is the emperor's new clothes. She's the new czarina of everything of the Democrat Party. At least that's what the Democrat Politburo is saying thus far. We'll see if that does turn out to be the case. They might have trapped themselves pretty good with Kamala, and now they're just going to have to convince the public that she's really great. She's not the cackling buffoon that you've seen all these years. She's been studying, and I talked about this even a couple of months ago, how they're going to tell us, and there was a story about a month ago in the Washington Post about how she's been studying at the knee of the master. And I don't want to bring Willie Brown into it at this point, but when Kamala is studying at the knee of the master, that could be a triple entendre. Never mind that. She is the anointed one for the moment, but in the Democrat Party, anointments can go from person to person. Pretty amazing stuff. So does Joe Biden know what he's done? The Politburo, led by Barack Obama primarily in the Democrat Party, they will decide. They're the ones that decided that Joe must go. And Barack was working very quietly, very surreptitiously behind the scenes to make sure that Joe Biden would step aside because it's all about party power. And a fourth term for Barack Obama and his mentor, the communist Frank Marshall Davis. And they've achieved great success, depending on how you define the word success, along with the Communist Party voter, penitentiary-faced John Brennan at the CIA corrupting our last presidential election in a consequence-free world, which is kind of an amazing thing. But we've got that going. And yesterday, honestly, I was at a shopping mall called Tyson's Corner in Virginia, where I haven't been in about 8 years. But my best girl had some business out there in that neck of the woods. And she said, well, why don't you come with me and I'll drop you there and you can go poke around since we're going on our sea cruise later this week. And, maybe you can find a warm shirt for Scotland or something. And I said, okay, I haven't looked at that mall in a long, long time. It's like visiting Dubai. It's like going to Dubai, going to the Tyson's Corner shopping mall. It's very ethnically rich and culturally diverse. And so I was there minding my own business, walking around when I got word that, and you know what, this is a true story. I don't walk around with my phone in my hand because I'm not in love with my phone, but I was walking in the gigantic airport-sized, big airport, not a small airport-sized shopping mall, Tyson's Corner. I think I was in one, not two. They've got two of them, I think. And I was walking, minding my own business, and three people walked past me. All three of them were Asian. I say that for Democrats because you know how they love race. And three of them were Asian, about 20 years old, two males, one female. And they're all looking at their phones. and one of the young males, as I'm just walking by him. And I just heard a young male say, oh, he kind of gasped. Oh, he dropped out. That's all I heard. So I mean, is he talking about the NFL draft? What is he talking about? And I actually stopped and turned to them. And I said, wait a minute, did you just say, I didn't go to my own phone because it's not my nature. I interact with human beings, with other human beings. And I said, wait a minute, did you just say he dropped out? You mean Biden dropped out? And he looked kind of panicked that somebody would talk to him because people 20 years old are not accustomed to people talking to them like they're normal. And I said, Joe Biden dropped, and he again looked panicked for a moment. Then he looked at his phone and he says, well, that's what it looks like. Maybe ABC, but he looked panicked, like I was going to become angry or something. And I made another little joke, and then we just kept walking. And I did grab my phone at that point. And by that time, I was being bombarded with texts, including from Michael Piercy, sitting across from me now, about Joe Biden dropping out. And I was walking around. I got to say, I was by myself, and I was beaming. I had a big smile on my face, and I was walking around. And I got to say, I saw people like with American flag hats baseball caps and stuff. And I wanted to just start saying, hey, Joe Biden dropped out, but I wanted to do a broadcast, but I didn't. I kind of stayed quiet. Then a lot of things happened. Got a call from this radio station and said, hey, we want you to come in. I'm saying, well, actually, I'm at Tyson's Corner Shopping Mall without a car, and I'm here for a couple hours. So, so I stepped aside on that one, but I didn't mean to. But Joe Biden stepped aside officially. It's not clear whether he knows that he stepped aside yet because he's still in one of his multi-million-dollar homes, Rehoboth, on a government salary, and and the news media is not curious about that at all. That's just fine, the entirety of our news media. But he's apparently stepped aside, and for now at least, they're saying that Kamala is the one. She's the one, the chosen one. And they know that they're embarrassed by this. And interestingly enough, when Barack Hussein Obama and Michelle Obama, let's not lose sight of the fact that Michelle Obama's name was on there too, when they put out this statement, nowhere in the statement does it say, and we enthusiastically support Kamala Harris in replacing Joseph Robinette Biden. No, but the statement signed by former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama on Sunday, we will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead. But, he says, but I have extraordinary confidence. Why but? That's very negative. Should just say, I have extraordinary confidence. I would have eliminated the word but. But, let's leave Larry Sinclair out of it for now, too. But I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party, they've got leaders, it's the Politburo, you're the leader of the party, will be able to create a process. That means they're going to have to start from scratch, and Barack Obama's in charge, from which an outstanding nominee emerges, and Michelle. But you notice that when they say a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges, that does not accept that Kamala is the heir. And when Barack Obama does not, and Big Mike too, Michelle Obama, everybody knows she's a tranny. When they leave out Kamala's name, Kamala should read too much into that, or just enough at least, because that's pretty amazing stuff. And Barack Obama is on the list of big-time Democrats that have not endorsed Kamala Harris. Nancy Pelosi has not endorsed Kamala Harris. She's the real Speaker of the House emeritus. And Jeffries, the Democrat Hakeem Jeffries, who is the Democrat leader in the House, and he hasn't endorsed Kamala, and he's a POC. He's a person of color. You know how the Democrats are about these things. Senator Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, has not endorsed Kamala Harris. Senator Dickie the Turban Durbin from Illinois has not endorsed. But Bill Clinton and Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton, who is waiting back there, she is waiting. She is a scary person. The Clintons came out and they endorsed Kamala Harris, but and Joe Biden eventually did too. But the Bill Clinton and Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton put out a statement. We are honored. That means they're always lying when they say they're honored, to join the president in endorsing Vice President Harris, and will do whatever we can to support her. That means they're positioning themselves to usurp her and to take the position from her. Whatever they say, the opposite is true. And we will do whatever we can to support her. That means we're already doing whatever we can to undermine her. Now is the time to support Kamala Harris and fight with everything we've got to elect her. America's future depends on it. It just kind of depends on what you want for America's future, I suppose. So we've got a lot of pieces, moving pieces going on that front, and try to get to all of them. Could be difficult in only 3 hours. And the head of the Secret Service, Kim, they call her Kim. She's going to be testifying on Capitol Hill, Kim Cheadle. And we'll see what goes on with that. I think she might have to get back to them on a lot of issues because it's an ongoing investigation. But we've got, and these two people, Steve Ricchetti and Mike Donilon, they wrote the farewell address for Joe Biden yesterday on a letter that came out not on White House stationery or even on campaign stationery, which is kind of peculiar. And we're wondering whether they told Joe Biden what was happening. It's unclear at this point. Joe Biden's very bad, terrible, awful weekend. And the Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, very bad week. Aaron Sorkin changed his mind. He's a Hollywood person. Pretty amazing things going on all over the place. Bud Light loses more ground. The Grateful Dead with the greatest honor of their dead lifetimes. Pretty amazing stuff. And we are at 888-630-9625. The Democrats' open brokered convention. I assume they'll have to pick another KKK-friendly candidate like the last time they had an open convention, the Klan Bake in 1924. Let's go to the telephones right now. Let's see. Where are we going? We're going to James. Let's go to James calling from Bolivia, North Carolina. James, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Very well, James.
I'm honored I've been able to get through twice and talk to you. And I just wanted to commend you and give credit where credit's due. You've called this for the longest, and I agree with you. I don't think the Diabolicrats are finished meddling. And I just had a funny thought. I read that letter. I read it on the X that Joe Biden supposedly typed up or had typed up, and
right.
Didn't sound like him. It sounded like somebody maybe in his family that wanted to give a big old FU to all the Democrat elites.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So they can't really make a move with her without. I'm just looking forward to the DNC. I'm gonna take the night off and buy some ketogenic snacks, and I don't normally snack and watch TV, but I think that's gonna be better than Springer was back in the day.
Jerry Springer, Jerry, so you think chairs are going to fly and we're going to have, you're not the father. Did he do that you're not the father thing? Can't remember who did that. That's Jerry Springer throwing a lot of chairs, doing a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a rowdy time for those that for all those tolerant folks that are going to be fighting each other. I can't wait. I'm excited. Great point, James.
Thank you very much for the call. And ketogenic snacks, that's good. That's not popcorn. That's much healthier than I think. That's good stuff. Yeah, the Democratic National Convention promises to be a riot. Now, the Democrats who lie if they're talking, they're now claiming that since Joe Biden announced that he's stepping aside, or somebody did in a letter that was put out, they say that in how many hours has it been? It hasn't been anywhere close to 24 hours. And they're declaring, here's the ABC fake news. Harris raises $50 million after Biden endorsement. That's the ABC News headline. It's like living in Iran or North Korea when it comes to our news media. And the Wall Street Journal, Harris has raised nearly $50 million since Biden endorsement. And it's the endorsement. It's not stepped aside or stepped down or quit or anything. It's all the friendliest language. They're polishing this turd with their tongues in ways that we've grown to expect, I suppose. Election 2024 updates, ABC fake news. Harris raises $50 million after Biden endorsement. It's all the same language, exact same language. Now, how can that be? And they're claiming it's all small donor money, which means that they're lying again because they lie all the time. Amazing stuff. And in fact, last time I looked, they were claiming it was $57 million because, President Joe Biden was under heavy pressure from fellow Democrats, ABC News writes. Those fellow Democrats include absolutely everyone at ABC News. But never mind that. President Joe Biden's decision to drop out. That's not the party-issued language right there. Of the 2024 presidential race, they've always got to bring race into it, on Sunday came after heavy pressure from congressional Democrats, including Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, and more than 30 House lawmakers. Biden, 81, in case you didn't know, had resisted calls to step aside. There's the party-issued language right there. That grew almost daily following his poor performance in his June 27 debate with former President Donald Trump, and persistent questions about his age and mental fitness, which you've been aware of for a number of years because you listen to this radio show and to this radio station. His decision comes just a few months before the November 5th election. Sure, Biden backed his vice president, Kamala Harris, not right away though, for the top of the ticket, triggering many others, they're easily triggered, in the party to issue statements backing Harris. Yeah, but not Barack Obama and not a whole lot. And by the way, Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia who recently said, I don't think I'm a Democrat anymore. Now I think I'm an independent. And Joe Manchin, who's, among the more normal, which isn't hard, not setting the bar very high among Democrats. But Manchin says, well, now he's thinking maybe he will go back to being a Democrat just in case he wants to run for the top slot. ABC News popped with a headline minutes ago saying, Manchin says he's not running for the Democratic nomination. I will not be running. But you can't believe anything that's happening right now because the Democrat is in the midst of a meltdown, the Democrat Party and everybody in the crazy circle fest that is the Democrat Party. They're in the midst of mental, psychological, emotional, and as usual, sexual meltdown because Joe Biden decided to pass the torch. And got to look out for Democrats and torches. I think we know that, don't we? Torches and Democrats, dangerous combination. Speaking of which, I made passing mention a couple of minutes ago, but the 1924, right? Now I think it's 2024 now. Politico wrote a piece in 2016. 1924, I have all these pages in front of me. 1924, the wildest convention in U.S. history. And it was called the Klan Bake because the Democrat Party is party of the Klan. And in 1924, their boy, racist, segregationist, progressive Democrat Woodrow Wilson, the only president buried in Washington, D.C. He's in the National Cathedral here in Washington, D.C. And he had a Klan-favored candidate. And in 1924, they met at the old Madison Square Garden in New York City. New York. It's a heck of a town. The crime rate is up and the economy's down. But the story from this 2016 was naturally an attack on Republicans, even though what they were talking about was the Democrat Party Klan Bake of 1924. And the story by Jack Schaefer of Politico begins nearly 100 years ago. Now it is 100 years ago, but this was 2016 when Trump was running for the first time. Nearly 100 years ago, it took the Democrats 103 ballots and 16 sweaty days to select a nominee. Could the GOP be headed for a similar showdown this year? No, the answer was no at the time. And Jack Schaefer is a Democrat Party stenographer from the girls' steno pool. And he wrote this piece in 2016 about the Klan Bake. And it's kind of fascinating. They're attacking Republicans, attacking Ted Cruz, attacking Marco Rubio, attacking Kasich and Kasich. And it was kind of an amazing story. Now, in retrospect, of course, the convention, the Democrat convention 100 years ago was called the Klan Bake. A little play on the word clam bake, an Elvis Presley movie, I think. So they're writing in 2016 the parallels between the Democrats' 2024 convention and the Republicans' upcoming one are there for a columnist's taking, he typed on behalf of his party, the Democrat Party. The 1924 Democratic Party was as divided as the Republican Party is today. Maybe more so. Maybe, you think? The convention, often called the Klan Bake, because one of the front runners, white shoe lawyer, sure it's a white shoe because racist, white shoe lawyer and former Woodrow Wilson cabinet member, William G. McAdoo, was supported by the Ku Klux Klan. The Klan was a major source of power within the Democratic Party in 1924, and McAdoo did not repudiate its endorsement, while the other frontrunner, New York Democrat Governor Al Smith, a Catholic who represented the party's anti-Klan, anti-prohibition wing, failed by a slim minority. Now, it's kind of a fun story, but the Democrat Party, with their Klan Bake 100 years ago this year, it's funny, the news media is not writing about it this year. Why aren't they writing about the 100-year anniversary of the Democrat Party's Klan Bake? Isn't that amazing? Yes, sir. So it took the Democrats 103 ballots. It took them 16 days, normally 4 days, to settle on a KKK-approved candidate, John W. Davis. And you may remember, or not, Joe Biden remembers firsthand, that Calvin Coolidge, the Republican, actually won. And so Calvin Coolidge beat the Democrats' KKK candidate, John W. Davis, in 1924. Is that going to be a problem? No, it's not, because the Democrats erase their own history all the time. Remarkable stuff. So we've got that going, and that's a little bit of fun. And now what are the Democrats going to do? Well, they're squirming like a toad, and their brains are squirming like toads too. A lot of weird stuff going on in America these days. President Trump yesterday put out a statement. Biden is unfit to finish term. Now, if he's announced that he's not running and Kamala will be, at least endorsed by Joe Biden, if not by Barack Obama and Big Mike Michelle Obama, since she signed on to the memo, the note, the statement that didn't endorse Kamala. But President Trump yesterday posted of Joe Biden, he's the worst president in the history of our country. There has never been a president so bad. He is not fit to serve. And I ask, who's going to be running the country for the next 5 months? And that's a perfectly fair question, by the way, because if Joe Biden is not fit to run and not fit to be president after January 20th of 2025, then why would I think that he's fit to be president now? Why would I think that? I know that he's not up to the task. I mean, you can use whatever words you want. Fit is a perfectly sufficient word in this context. Is he fit to be president and perform the duties of the president of the United States? Since he yesterday said, no, not really, then probably he should step down now. Kamala should become the president. She could choose a vice president. Maybe Gerald Ford is available. I don't know who it would be. He's not available, of course. NBC fake news is they had a funny story on Saturday before we learned that Joe Biden was dropping out. And their story with the headline, the word ludicrous, one of Mike Tyson's favorite words. It's ludicrous. The word ludicrous is the first word in the headline with it's in quotation marks and then a colon because they love their colons. Ludicrous. Donors leave call with Kamala Harris frustrated and annoyed. The gathering of about 300 donors was meant to calm concerns, but instead upset several who said it was so badly organized, though they didn't blame Harris herself, NBC fake news reports. Isn't that amazing? And so there was a conference call with Kamala Harris and 300 big donors, NBC News reported on it on Saturday. And it was so bad that people were hanging up. Donors were hanging up in the middle of the call. And they said it was ludicrous. It was a disaster because she is such a joke. And that's one of the problems that the Democrats have now, is that she's a WOC, a woman of color. Kamala Harris, just a refresher, made her way into politics through the good graces of California Democrat bigwig, who was the head of the, and what was their relationship, Michael? They had, Willie Brown. They had a sexual relationship, and Willie Brown, very powerful Democrat. And Willie Brown wrote an article in 2020 when Kamala was running and didn't win any states, didn't stay in long enough to win any states. She only had 3% popularity among Democrats, and she dropped out before anybody. And pretty amazing stuff. But Willie Brown launched her political career. She became Attorney General of California, then senator briefly from California. Her father was Jamaican, her mother Indian from India, and both professors. Her hard-scrabble existence in Northern California as the daughter of two professors, and Jamaican and Indian. It was really a struggle. But it also goes with another story from Axios that broke over the weekend as well, yesterday, and I think they updated it late last night. Scoop, : see, I mean, how many times? I have to tell you, they love their colons. Biden doubted Harris's election chances, and they were having these secret meetings in the name of transparency. The Democrats were, and sneaking everything past everybody, including each other and themselves in many cases. Joe Biden still maybe not aware that he dropped out yesterday. They're going to have to tell him. They're going to sit him down. And I got to tell you, Dr. Jill Biden has got to be furious. She's losing the 757 out of Andrews Air Force Base and the helicopters and the Secret Service detail, which she loves. She loves her Secret Service detail. So President Biden hesitated to drop his reelection campaign in part because he and his senior advisors worried that Vice President Kamala Harris wasn't up to taking on Donald Trump, according to 3 Biden aides familiar with recent talks about his plans. Biden, 81, ultimately decided to withdraw under pressure from the party. The party, that's the Politburo. We all know about the Politburo. That is the Democrat Party. The Soviet Union had their Politburo. China has their Politburo. And now the United States has our Politburo. And the chief polit is Barack Hussein Obama. And the Politburo will decide. They decided, and how many times did I talk about this, about how the behind the curtain, the powerful Democrats, and I raised the question weeks ago. Now we get to find out who is more powerful, the President of the United States or the Democratic Party and their Politburo. Now we know the answer. And I said last week and weeks ago that the Politburo is more powerful and Joe Biden will lose out to this. But Axios typing today on behalf of their party that Joe Biden really didn't want to step aside because he didn't believe that Kamala has what it takes. But you picked her to be vice president. And now 3.5 years later, learning at the knee of the master, wink, wink. Now she's still not ready to, come on, you got to pass the torch. You're stepping aside. This next week will be crucial for Harris, 59, to prove doubters wrong as she moves quickly to try to clear the field of potential challengers for the Democratic nomination. I think we're going to have another clan bake in Chicago, maybe 16 days, 103 ballots, and then they'll choose the clan favorite. What do you think? Maybe not. We'll have to see. We are at 888-630-9625. All right, Kamala has an event at the White House today where she's supposed to speak. That could be funny. That's going to happen at 11:30 a.m. The president was supposed to be there, but he's got the Wuhan got the Wuhan Red Death. We should send him a T-shirt, don't you think? He survived the Wuhan Red Death T-shirt. All right, let's go to the telephones, Michael, and I'll give you a Joe Biden schedule and Kamala Harris's schedule this week. Kind of a big deal now. Let's go to Matthew calling from Arkansas. Matthew, you are on the Chris Plant Show.
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking my call. First time getting through when you were there.
Welcome. Yes, sir.
Barack Obama, he's the master. He decided to pick a vice president that was just unelectable as an insurance policy. Then somehow he got elected. So he followed suit, and he found somebody who was completely unelectable as an insurance policy. I think here pretty soon it's going to come back to bite him.
I like the way you think. It's fun, but when you have the entirety of the media, the entertainment media, the news media on your side, the propaganda apparatus of the Democrat Party, they got John Fetterman elected to the Senate over Dr. Mehmet Oz, a renowned heart surgeon and TV personality. And they got this guy from the Munsters elected to the Senate. They could get a can of beep elected to office in the United States because they have Soviet-style information dominance, don't they, Matthew?
Yes, sir. I did not see the zucchini winning that election either.
Honestly, it's amazing what they can do with they're abusing the information dominance that they've gotten. The corrupt news media. Where do they find all these corrupt people, Matthew?
They're all in one big pool. It's called Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's a fact. And Democrats, and I don't know how they recruit them from across the country. And it isn't. Now, Matthew, you're calling from Arkansas. I think, Bill Clinton is from Arkansas.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Yeah. Hillary's from Illinois. She's a humdinger, too.